Hello, everyone, and welcome once again to the Temple Institute Parsha class. My name is Gedalia Meyer, and I'm podcasting from Ma'ale Adumim in Israel. We all know about the war. We have all been following things either from close on or from afar. Some are affected by it on a very personal level, and others have the perceived comfort of distance, either physical or otherwise, to perhaps ease their fears. Speaking as an Israeli, there is a strange combination of great confidence that things will work out in our favor, either due to divine assistance or the power of the Israeli military, and a lingering sense of trepidation that it might not turn out the way we hope and expect. There are too many players in the game now, and the unexpected has become the expected. This podcast will not go into the subject of military strategies or political ups and downs. While those two topics are the subjects of countless articles on every imaginable website, you won't hear them on this podcast. I don't have the expertise or the background to speculate on what is happening behind the scenes or why this is going on instead of that. Besides, they don't interest me all that much other than to get a daily general idea of what's doing so that tomorrow doesn't come as a complete surprise. My opinion is no better or worse than anybody else's, and I genuinely feel that I have nothing to contribute that hasn't already been said somewhere. There will also be nothing about the rapidly changing state of political opinions concerning this war and what it represents for the Jews and the Palestinians. True colors of certain groups and individuals are being revealed by the minute, assuming they weren't already revealed in the past. This is both alarming and reassuring at the same time. It is a way of finally clearing the air of any doubt of where people stand on the matter. This is out there for all to see and to decide for themselves. I won't go into the endless banter about the media and its perceived bias in one direction or the other. For anybody who is not aware, the established media is nothing more than a glorified and published version of social media, and we should expect nothing better or worse from it than exactly that. Whatever they report or say carries the same weight as a TikTok video and should be treated as such. This is an unfortunate state of affairs, but it is nevertheless the way things are. What I will discuss is how all this reflects on certain national and religious trends that have been set in motion ages ago. While this may not seem like the most relevant way of approaching a real-life war in the 20th century, those other more popular methods don't seem to be zeroing in on the essence of this conflict. They can talk about modern history and geopolitical movements from here till tomorrow, but it's all just cutting and pasting from Wikipedia. We are going to go back to some origins, right back to the first moments of the initial movers and shakers of the current situation. It's all found in the Bible, to the delight or consternation of everyone who hears that. It may seem hard to believe, but so is quantum mechanics and the unpredictable state of the economy. Believe it or not, the two religious nations involved in this war, the Jews and the Muslims, both have their origins in this week's Parsha. That may sound too impossible to possibly be true, but it is nevertheless. Not only that, but informed members of both sides would probably agree with the claim, though with many provisos added. Some things are just there for all to see, as fantastic as it may seem. One need not make any claims of prophetic insight or miraculous intervention of any sort. One only needs to read the words. This week's Parsha is called Lech Lecha. That two-word phrase means go for yourself or something along those lines. Although it is among the best-known phrases in Judaism, it has never been easy to get a satisfactory translation that really does it justice. It is God's initial command to Abraham, or Avraham, as he was called at the time. God tells him, seemingly out of nowhere, that he must leave his birthplace and his homeland and set out for some unknown land that will be clarified in the future. As unlikely as all this may seem, it is right there in the text with the added detail that Avram was 75 years old at the time. His wife Sarah, or Sarai, was 10 years younger, and they had no children at the time. For some unclear reason, they headed in the general direction of west, eventually ending up in the biblical and faithful land of Canaan, or Canaan, the very region where all this is happening today. God tells him, apparently shortly after he arrived, that this land will be given to his descendants. Because of the famine, Avram travels to the south of the land on the road to Egypt. In all likelihood, he passed through the Gaza Strip, since the ancient road went right there. The name Gaza goes back to biblical times, and there was possibly a town called Gaza around 4,000 years ago. There certainly was a kingdom in what is now Egypt, and there was a region in which the various Canaanite tribes and nations lived to the northeast. The Gaza region was populated by the peoples who predated the Philistines, the famous biblical rivals of the Israelites who arrived there around 3,200 years ago. After some adventures in Egypt, Avraham and Sarai returned to the southern portion of Canaan known as the Negev until today. He makes it north as far as the biblical town of Beit El. It was around there that his nephew Lot, who had accompanied him both on the journey from the original homeland and back and forth to Egypt, makes a first and final break with him. This was the first recorded example of a dispute over land in this small place that has had an endless stream of wars concerning land. Lot goes east to the plains around the Dead Sea, while Avraham goes south again to Hebron, where he builds an altar to God. Next, there is a major war involving 9 kingdoms of the greater region in which Canaan was just a small part. This war was a long time in coming, after 13 years of subjugation. The epic battle took place near the Dead Sea. Lot was captured in the course of it, and Avram's sole role is in mounting a force to rescue him from captivity. He is praised for his efforts by Malki Tzedek, a mysterious king of Shalem or Salem. He then heads off to his home around Hebron. There he experiences the first of several long prophetic interactions with God that are recorded in the Bible. This one deals with his immediate and distant fate as a father and as the founder of a great nation. He is told that his destiny is not to be easy or simple. It will involve enslavement and oppression in a foreign land. All this comes in the form of a dreamlike trance, which put him in a state of abject fear. This was not a pleasant message to hear, but it did set Avraham on the path of his inevitable fate. The next subject is what is most relevant for today. This is the birth of Avram's first son, Yishmael. Sarai was barren, and she insisted that Avram take her maid Hagar as a wife, with the goal that perhaps Sarai would somehow be healed of her condition. Hagar becomes pregnant from this union and begins to treat her mistress with contempt. Because of this, Sarai takes her affront to Avram, who tells her to deal with the situation as she sees fit. Hagar is forced to run away from her mistress into the desert. It is there that a fateful encounter with an angel takes place. What we are to make of this bizarre encounter is left for us to decide, but the Torah is clear that it was an angel who spoke to her. The angel asks her where she is coming from and where she is going. She replies that she is running away from her mistress. The angel then tells her to return and submit herself to her mistress. Then the angel abruptly changes subject and informs her that she will be the ancestress of a great nation, so large that it will be uncountable. She is told that she will bear a son whom she must call Yishmael. This name means God will listen, for God has heard her prayer. Then the angel goes on and says, quote, "He will be a rebellious man. His hand will be on all, and the hand of all will be on him. And upon the presence of all of his brothers he will dwell." This mysterious destiny is told to her as matter-of-factly as we might hear the weather report. It just comes out in front of her and us, as clear as day. This is the end of her encounter with the angels. But she is so struck by it that she names the place where it took place El Roi, meaning God of my vision. It is unclear if this destiny granted to her son Yishmael is meant to be taken as a blessing or as a kind of curse. There is no indication in the Torah either way. Hagar, for her part, seems to have seen it as a wondrous experience, which was nothing less than an awesome prophecy. She is not horrified by this trait of rebelliousness or the fact that her son was fated to have, quote, his hands on all and have the hands of all on him. Even this line of "he will dwell in the presence of all of his brothers" seems to be a sign of his eventual greatness. He was destined to have a powerful role in the world. So it would turn out to be. All parties involved, both the Jews and the Muslims, agree that Hagar was the mother of Yishmael through Avraham, and that Yishmael was the ancestor of the Arabs and ultimately of all the Muslim peoples. The tribes of Arabia were his direct descendants. To this day, they venerate the spots they believe she stopped on her journeys through the desert, either this one or one that comes in next week's Parsha. These are all in the vicinity of Mecca, the founding city of Islam. Both the Jews and the Muslims claim Avram as their ancestor, and both acknowledge the legitimacy of the other, though with disputed claims of priority. The fate of Yishmael seems to play out more and more accurately as the years go by. It is remarkable how this verse captures what seems to be a point of great pride among the Arabs and the Muslims. This incessant drive to be in the midst of everyone and always in a state of conflict. There is no better way of putting it than that fateful verse stated so succinctly. His hand will be on all, and the hand of all will be on him. It is indeed a blessing if this is what one seeks in life, but perhaps it is a curse for those who are fated to be the targets of its power. Shabbat Shalom.